Hi, everyone. Oh, gosh, that's loud. I'm sorry, that woke you up. My name is Kristin Dos Santos. I work for E! News and E! Online, and I am a huge fan of How to Get Away with Murder. I'm really, really happy to be here tonight. It's definitely my favorite new show, and 20 million people agree with me. That premiere was astounding. I don't know if you caught the numbers, but 14 million for the first episode, plus DVR was 20 million. It is the highest rated drama on television for anyone under the age of 50. Just an astonishing success story so far, and obviously has done amazing things also for diversity on television. And just, that's worth cheering about. Fun fact that I learned tonight while researching for this is if you Google how to get away with murder, what shows up is actually how to get away with murders, which has me a little concerned about what the public at large is Googling. So I just want to say for the record, should my computer ever be seized, it was researched for this show, for this panel. The cast is here tonight, and they already were having a giggle fit backstage. I can tell they don't get along at all. They're already busting themselves up. So please give a warm welcome to this astonishing cast, who I think we all have responded so well to so far. Up first, we have Tom Verica, who is the worst as Sam. And by the worst, I mean the best at being the worst. Oh, how we love to hate you. Yeah.
Protected.
Up next, my God, she had the most gripping scene in the latest episode, Liza Weil, who plays Bonnie. I was going to say one of the sexiest beards on TV, but I'm just going to say the sexiest beard on TV, Charlie Weber, who plays Frank. Up next, the girl we can't quite figure out yet, Rebecca, Katie Findlay. Some of you might remember him from the very first scene we saw him in. He might have some future knee problems, I think. His name is Billy Brown, and he plays Nate. Up next, the woman who really needs no introduction. She rocks me to the core every week with her stunning performances. She plays Annalise Keating, of course, Viola Davis. Got up on your feet. Good for you. Up next is the guy who plays Wes, of course, who we all love so much, Alfred Enoch. The guy who, according to BuzzFeed, is the best part of How to Get Away with Murder, Jack Falahee, who plays Connor. Who we really felt for in that latest episode, my God. She's got a mother-in-law to deal with. Asia Naomi King. Speaking of that sexy beard, the woman who ultimately could not resist the sexy beard, Karla Souza is here. And finally, we have the man who I could watch pop and lock while he's getting ready for the bonfire all day long. I just want like a whole episode of it. Matt McGorry. Well, first off, I just want to say congratulations, because how can we not? What an amazing success story the show has had so far. The numbers are through the roof. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. And again, just what you've been able to do as far as furthering diversity on television has been fantastic. So just congratulations. And I do want to hear from you. We can applaud to that. For anyone who wants to speak to this, how has it been just experiencing the reaction to these first 8 episodes and really, being a part of the biggest buzz show of the fall and seeing that your hard work was not all for naught? I mean, that the audience is really responding so well to it. What has the journey been like so far for you? Who's going to be the brave soul to speak first?
Hello. I have to say for myself, growing up, you didn't get to really see characters played by women like Viola Davis. And so for me, especially just being a part of this show and getting to watch it on TV and seeing the response of it from all types of people everywhere be the kind of thing that I always dreamed of. It's inspiring and heartwarming and just everything that I'd ever hoped that television could be, just enlightening and reflecting the world as it is, with complicated characters. And it's lovely to see someone that I admire getting to take on that role in such a unique way.
On that note, Viola, I know, at TCA, you made a lot of headlines when you so boldly said, I wanted to be the show. I didn't want to be in these projects standing next to the A-listers. Like, I wanted to be that A-lister, which is a terrible term, by the way, but you wanted to be this. You wanted to be the show. And now you are the show. And my God, has that worked out? But how has this experience lived up to what your expectations were that it would be? I think you're mic'd. No, you need a mic here.
Okay. How has it? I'm tired. How has it been? It's been great because I get to go on a journey with a character. And, TV is it's not so new to me. I'm the failed TV pilot queen. I've had a lot of failed TV pilots. But TV is new to me in terms of the whole feeling like characters have to unravel in one episode. And you have to see everything, all the cards played on the table, within 42 minutes. So it's been really great going on a journey with this character and people questioning her motives, knowing that there will be a payoff, because it's like theater in that way. The schedule is tearing me apart. But it's been, I have to say it's been great. It's been great playing a role where someone is writing for me and not being the third girl from the left, feeling like I have all this potential, because, potential does have a shelf life. Feeling like you have all this potential and you were going to go the route of so many actors in general, but especially actresses of color, where you're like, you remember Gloria Foster or Mary Alice? They did that one scene in Sanford and Son. It's like, no, they didn't. They're great. You just don't know it. So it's good to at least be able to play like that. So.
I remember talking to the creator of How to Get Away with Murder, Peter Nowak, before the show started, and he said he knew it was really going to work, and just how phenomenal the potential of the show was when he saw the scene with you and Wes in the bathroom, because the script said something like, she touches him inappropriately. And then the way in which you touched him, no one really had envisioned or saw coming, and it was your choice to do it that way, where it was a full-on rub, you went for it. But he said that he loved that you always go for the weird and the unexpected, and not doing everything in the most predictable way. And since then, I keep hearing of all these sort of choices that you're making as far as, it being your idea to take off the wig and the lashes and strip down. Which I don't think anyone breathed during that scene while we were watching it. It had such emotional gravitas. But can you just talk about, it seems to me like you are making a lot of choices for your character, and you're also sort of deciding your own idea of what the backstory is and things that aren't necessarily on the page. So can you just talk about that? And how do you do that? Because it's so well done.
I am an observer of life, and life is vast. And I've come to the conclusion that people create characters from what they see on TV. If you're sexy, you've got to be a size 2. You have to have long hair that's always got to be done, even if you wake up in the morning. If you're strong in your professional life, you got to be strong in your personal life. And I don't know anyone like that. I had a choice when I walked into the role. I could either take what I have, which is I'm 49. I am, yes, I'm 49. Wait till you're 49, you won't be clapping. But, I'm 49. I am definitely an actress of a certain size, all of that. So I can either try to squeeze myself into a mold because I'm looking at a character on the page that is described as being sexualized and mysterious, and so I could plug into everything that I've seen so far in characters like that. Or I can use what I have. And what's interesting is what you see in the 350 million people who live in the United States, and Lord knows how many women, that I feel that there's a whole section of women that's been marginalized on TV, that don't poop, that don't, and who put on, really? And they put on the mask before they walk out the door of acceptability. And I thought that that would be a great foundation to create a character, that is something that's never been seen.
There's actually an interview that just went up on TV Line a couple hours ago, and Peter Nowak was talking about the scene between Liza and Viola, which was so stunning in that latest episode. But he said you guys came up with the idea of Bonnie getting down on her hands and knees and sort of begging for mercy. And he said, they add so much to the backstory and feeling that's not written into the script. So Liza, can you also talk about that, like filming that scene and how you made the choices that you did?
I think I have to give credit to Debbie Allen for that one, who was our director for that episode. She was very clear that was a very strong image that she was interested in, and I think that Viola and I felt like that was something that we wanted to try. I think that scene is really interesting because you've seen that dynamic many times before, and just by sort of making a choice to add that kind of physicality to it, it becomes much stronger. And I think it made it a lot easier to access all of the things that really shaped that scene. Yes, I'm going to put a period there.
I also loved in that scene that, Annalise had tears in her eyes. And I feel like this character is so powerful and so smart and so driven, and yet seeing the private side of her and seeing those moments where she breaks, we don't often get such a disparate image of a character. Who is that? Come up here and moderate. She's so strong and she's so weak in moments. So how is that to play? And do you feel like sort of that taking off of the mask helps us to see her as not just this powerful attorney who can bend the jury to her every whim, because she is so good in her job. She's such a powerful professor. But I do love that right off the bat, a lot of times it takes shows to a long journey before you see that kind of private side to a powerful character. So how has that been to play?
Well, every time I read a script, so I read a script and the name of the character, Annalise Keating, and she's really, really strong, like really freaking strong, and I don't buy it. How many people know anyone that strong? So then I say, she's a liar. Because I know that I lie. Listen, I'm lying sitting here with you right now. I have a kid at home. I got a bed at home. I love all you beautiful people, but there's a part of my brain that says, I really want to be here, but I really don't want to be here. So in acting, it's that duality. It's that complexity that makes characters interesting. To play somebody who literally has to put on such a powerful mask in order to just catapult themselves and survive in the world. So therefore, when they take it off, who are they? And the weakness has got to match the strength. It can't be like a kind of weak, subtle kind of sensitivity, because as a side note, sometimes, in TV and film, people see, a lot of times, a lot of people play subtlety in film. We do. Subtlety is great, right? It's fabulous. But sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't. And when doesn't it? I have a relative who's like that. She's crazy. She'll call, she'll ask for money, she'll laugh, and then the next minute she's just weeping hysterically. And you're on the phone thinking, are you fucking nuts? So, that's Annalise. She just happens to be a criminal defense attorney. And so there you go. So it was very liberating and very easy to take off the wig and the eyelashes because it was a physical manifestation of taking off the emotional mask. So it makes it easier to play. And it's also something that I've never seen on TV. And I told Pete that I'm like, I don't want to lay in the bed and pretend that this wig is my hair. And also because I know that when, I roll over, I don't know what's going to happen.
This is for anyone who wants to answer. I feel like, for a lot of people watching this show, we always wonder how much you know. In that pilot episode, you had to flash forward and flash backwards and play your characters without perhaps knowing all of the answers. So can you talk about the challenge, assuming that you don't know everything? I know it has been revealed, I'm not spoiling anything because Peter Nowak said it, but in the next episode we find out who killed Sam. It's the winter finale next Thursday. But beyond that, I'm just curious to know, like when you shot the pilot and sort of getting your feet wet with these characters, to not really know at that point, if you didn't know who's guilty, how does that make that challenging? Anyone?
Yeah, why not? Let me unburden you, Asia. We didn't know much going in. Maybe Viola had a little bit of a different level of understanding than we did, but for most of us, we didn't know who done it. We didn't really know anything that was going to happen in the arcs of our characters or anything like that. And I know different people work differently, different actors work differently, and I find that sometimes freeing because I sort of think of it, the choices that you make as like a choose your own adventure a little bit. And maybe that's in playing the douchebag that I get to play. I have some extra freedom with that. But I think that one of the cool things about television is they're writing it as they go. So the things that you show them and the choices that you bring to the character, I think are things that inform what end up happening later. And I think that's sort of important too. And I think as actors, and I remember, especially when you're nervous and starting out or auditioning, you're trying to do just the things on the page, and in the action lines, you're like, got to do this thing, got to wipe my hair here because that's the thing that says in the script. And it's like, I don't know why any script would ever say that. Sorry, I got to write that one. But I think it's important to look beyond that and think what you can bring to it outside of that, because also even just in auditioning, everyone's going to do what's on the page, and as long as it makes sense for it and the character and it's grounded, I think you can really sort of bring things to the role and show the writers things essentially that are not originally in it, and they can kind of work their way back in. Sometimes it's as simple as like, you guys have like a little rap party and you end up, doing a little popping and locking or something, and sometimes things make their way into the script,
Let's talk more about your dancing.
My pleasure.
Are you classically trained?
Yep. I actually, night school in Juilliard. I saw Viola during the day, and then at night I'd come in and,
I have to say, as someone who I watched every episode of Orange is the New Black as well, you were sort of the straight man on that show. You know what I mean? There was a lot of comedy going around you, and you played your character pretty straightforward. Yeah. So to see you now as like the comedic relief on this show, shaking your tail feather and doing the whole thing, is that really freeing for you? It's such a different character than we just saw you doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think we all probably get into what we do because we like being different people, and it's very cool to do that. And you do that in school, you get to play, you're like 12 years old and you get to play a 50-year-old man, I'm not quite doing something that's that different, but I feel very lucky to be able to do both. And I remember on Orange, working with Pablo, who played Pornstache, and seeing sort of the things that he came up with and being a little jealous that I like kind of couldn't do that too and be the funny one.
Like, I have an inner douchebag too.
What's that? I have a douchebag.
I can do douchebag.
Definitely. So yeah, it's been very freeing. There's a certain, I think, obligation when you're a character that's a romantic interest in that particular way to kind of play it straight, and you sort of mine for little bits of humor when you can. But it's nice to really almost feel like no choice is a wrong choice,
You know now if you go back to Orange, they're going to make you dance. In that prison,
exactly,
right? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
For anyone in the cast who wants to talk about the audition process and casting, we are in a room full of actors. So does anybody have an audition casting story that you'd like to tell? Did you read for a different part? What was that process like? Because obviously, landing the next great Shonda Rhimes show, it's a pretty big deal.
I got this one. My casting process was pretty interesting. Sorry, there's like some. I had a friend of mine who was staying with me. He's a British actor, and he was sleeping on my couch during pilot season. Worst idea ever, putting two actors in the same room during pilot season. And so we were going out for the same things because we're the same age. And he got a hold of an audition for How to Get Away with Murder. And
you killed him.
And I killed him. Season 2, yeah.
You see where my mind goes with this show?
And he was reading for Connor Walsh, which I think at the time was Patrick Donahue, but I'm not sure. Yeah. And he was like, "Hey bud, like you would be great for this role. You should try and get an audition." I was like, "Oh, right on, man." And so I called up my representation and was like, "Hey, I'd really like to go in on this." And I got an email back being like, "Yeah, you're not right for it. They don't think you're the right guy." And I couldn't get an audition, and I was stubborn, as I can be sometimes, and I put myself on tape and sent it in, and then they brought me in to tape me officially. And then I didn't hear anything for a couple weeks, and meanwhile, my buddy, the Brit, was like going in on callbacks, meeting Shonda, the whole thing. And I'm just like, oh my God. Because I love the script and the role. Yeah, and then sort of out of nowhere, they called me in to do the, what was it called? Chem read. Yeah, the screen test. There it is. The screen test. And yeah, so it was a weird process for me, but yeah, it worked out.
Are you still friends with the Brit?
Yeah, it was weird because it's I mean, as an actor and having friends that are actors and all of us struggling so hard to just like get a job, it can get, tenuous, I think, amongst friends. And he, I mean, bless his heart, is just the nicest guy. So he was nothing but supportive and happy for me. And now
he wasn't.
Well, he ended up getting another pilot, so that probably helped.
Tom, I'm so curious for you, playing double duty. You've been directing on Scandal, and now you're playing this god-awful role. It's a great role, but you are god-awful in it. Not your acting skills. You are doing your job well, because I think everyone in this room probably wants to, wring their hands around your neck.
I don't know why.
Sam is not the most likable character, but do you feel like he does have redeeming qualities that we haven't seen yet? Because I want to know, why is Annalise with this man?
Here we go. All right.
Defend yourself.
I auditioned for the role of Annalise, by the way. No, I was fortunate enough to be in this camp, and I think they were looking at a couple different people, and they had come to me. Linda Lowy, who was our casting director, wonderful, wonderful casting director, called me up and said, I have an idea for this part in How to Get Away with Murder, and it's the pilot shoots next week, and I'm like, well, this is going to be kind of problematic because I'm directing the finale of Scandal. But she said, well, I'm just going to kind of investigate it, and about 3 hours later, Shonda comes walking into my office, and she goes, okay, we got this idea. We'd like you to do this role. And I said, well, let me read this script. And he said, it's to play Viola Davis's husband. And I said, okay. I don't need to read the script, okay. So they made it work, but specifically about this character, you talked a little bit earlier about finding, not knowing, I was fortunate enough to know the end game of my character in the pilot. I knew I was going to be dead. So there was a freeing aspect to that. The challenge, of course, is we meet this couple at this very tumultuous and complex time in their relationship, their 20-year marriage. And the challenge for myself and for Viola is to really find, where do you believe that this couple have been together, and what is the history of that relationship, even though we never approach that, we never see anything on paper that kind of addresses that, other than a line thrown out there saying we've been married for 20 years. And then it slowly gets revealed that I had another wife, which I didn't know initially. So there's been a lot of discoveries for myself along the way, and I constantly go to Pete Nowak as I get a new script, and I say, okay, am I lying about each of these things? And he says, I don't know. So I said, okay, now I had known, he told me when I took this, he says, it's going to be a juicy role, there's going to be some elements of this character that might go to the left a little bit, and I kind of liked, I was attracted to that, because most of the time I'm playing the good, loyal boyfriend, husband, and I said, if this character's going to get a little dirty, I'm up for it, so let's do it. Little did I know. So as each script comes, I'm playing them, each moment as honest and believing that I did not do certain things, and then I get the next script. I'm like, wow, okay. But it was a real challenge. It was a real challenge to find, the complexities of any marriage, and it's not, we talk about television. Oftentimes, you see a very sort of one-dimensional and very surface. It's either bad or it's good, and there's no sort of gray area. I think all these characters have gray areas that I think is really interesting for each of them to play and explore. And particularly for our marriage, you know, finding those little moments that give you that history, that feeling of their history together, and if there are any moments that can ground them. And then, you know, then I get a script, or then I get a scene where I kiss Bonnie on the porch, and I'm like, wow, okay. I love Liza Weil, by the way. But I called Pete, and I said, okay, I got a tough one with this one. What is my reasoning for doing this? I mean, I think it was kind of explained, and as an actor trying to justify and play this part that I really enjoy playing, is really finding there's a desperation to this character and what's happening, which the inevitable is coming next week. But really kind of finding those elements of, it's hard, it is hard, but finding those elements that there's a reason why, and there's a reason why he's fighting, and there's a reason why he's lying constantly. And it's not just playing it from a kind of, oh, I'm the bad guy, I'm just going to lie. It's really kind of finding those elements. Why tell this lie now? What is worth it? What is the goal? What is the end game? And I have a feeling Sam was about to make a turn for the right way, but these people killed him. So yeah, it's challenging, but I think it's finding those moments where you can to try to justify it.
Well, I think you have been so phenomenal in the role so far, and I hope we get a lot more flashbacks for many seasons to come. I can't believe you person killed him. No tell. Sorry, I was looking for murderous eyes. Who has murderous eyes?
Every episode, I would go up to each one of them. Did you kill me? Did you kill me? Did you kill me?
I'm curious if you all had theories and if you would like sit around and talk. I don't know what all you know now, but in the beginning, did you ever throw out theories and try to figure out who killed who and who done it? Was that a big topic of conversation on the set? Was anyone right?
I did have one, I think, right before it was revealed in the 9th script that Sam tripped and fell into the trophy, and he died, and they all found him. That didn't go over, though.
There's actually the cheerleader who gets thrown in the air.
Yes, it's the cheerleader. You guys had some pretty, I remember there was a conversation, you guys had some interesting theories.
We did.
Share.
They might be saving those ideas for season 2, right?
Spoilers, you know too much.
You know too much.
All right, before we give anything away we're not supposed to, I want to talk about the romantic entanglements on the show. You know, one of the things I love is that, you know, we see in the flash forwards who sort of ends up together at that point, and, you know, we see sort of in the beginning how resistant people were to each other at first. But Katie and Alfred, can you talk about your dynamic on the show? Because I feel like they both keep sort of denying that they have feelings for each other, but it seems pretty concrete at this point that Wes is definitely in love with her. Is that a fair assessment?
Does anyone else want to hand me a microphone?
By the way, everyone handed you microphones. No one handed him one. No one wants Alfred to talk. Yeah.
As it should be. I mean, now I have to pick who I like better. This one's free, so I'm gonna. You need that. You're important. You say things.
After you.
Well, great, thanks. I mean, I don't think that Rebecca's resistant to Wes in particular. I just think that she's resistant to anyone who keeps showing up. Because I don't think she sees herself as someone anymore at this point in her life that somebody should show up for. And that was really interesting for me because, you know, I have a wonderful family and my mom calls to straighten me out a couple times a week. So the idea of growing up unsupported and disapproved of to the point where when someone says, hey, can you turn down your music, your first thought is very odd to me. Also because I'm Canadian. So, sorry. But yeah, I mean, I think that Wes is the first person who ever bothered to come back, and it makes no sense to her at all. and it's just awful and irritating and confusing, and there are smushy feelings, and he should go away, but where is he?
But he really, I don't think he really doesn't want to at all go away. I think one of the, as has become apparent, one of the best notes that we got. Yeah. What?
You're confusing
Who are you? Who are
Elfie never speaks in his British accent, so we don't even hear it. So this is, I mean,
This is
this is
insane.
a
And then
pleasure for all of us.
Oh, that's very kind. Yeah, no, I remember Michael Offer, who's the director, who we've just been working with him again recently, and we had him on the pilot, and he sort of started it all off. Gave us a great note when we were doing the West Rebecca scenes up in Philly where we shot the pilot, and he said, "You've got a long way to go." I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Well, okay, assuming it gets picked up, that's one thing, granted, but if it does, don't get there too fast. There's this girl's shutting the door in your face. It's written maybe that yes, it's going to become a romantic involvement. It's obvious in the way it's sort of stated, and it was sort of hinted at, maybe not overly delicately in the stage directions, but it was just a great idea, I think, to enable that resistance, and to give it somewhere to go to. And I think that's the thing that interests me about their relationship, is that there are so many obstacles in its way, and I think that's to do with that, continually denying it and continually finding a way to make it fit or try and make it acceptable or trying to resist it, because there's so much else at stake and it could jeopardize things even more. And I think out of that confusion, I think there's a real truthfulness in that. The more you're in that kind of relationship with someone, you get closer and closer for pure proximity, however different you are. When you know it's something you can't do and you can't commit to, it becomes tantalizing, and it creates momentum that eventually carries it over into something else. So I think that's what I think about it.
my answer was totally as smart as that.
But
That's
yours
what
was
I
much more
meant to say.
concise, So I
Exactly.
think you win.
Also, can I say, slamming the door on that face, not easy. Not easy.
All I know is I could listen to your British accent all day long. So, all right, Charlie and Karla, could you please talk about your relationship? Because I've loved sort of seeing the back and forth between the two of them. Everyone's so giving with their microphones. I love it. Can you talk about what do you think it is that attracts them to each other?
Well, I think for Frank and what's sort of been going on in the arc of things is that in the pilot you just think this is one more girl he's trying to sleep with. But ultimately finds that he met, a woman can change a man. And I think ultimately he feels like he may have met a woman that could change him, and that's why he's so persistent in the whole, it comes and it goes, and she lets him in, and then she pushes him away, and even that part of it's intriguing to him, and so it's just sort of it's a situation he's never been in, and I'm sort of exploring that with him.
For me, I think it was difficult when in the pilot, on the outset, you find out that she has half-naked picture of Frank on her phone, and yet she calls him a misogynistic ass. And so I think what the series does very interestingly is it's not about what will happen, but how it will happen. And so for me, it was kind of a challenge to find the journey within the first rejection of a man that she's labeled being Frank's girl, and she sort of hates that position, and she wants to, have her own seat in the Keating Five without it being because of a man picking her. And so for me, it was very interesting to see sort of how the writers were going to develop that story. And then also the interesting thing was having Khan also there, the legal aid guy who I think is Laurel's kind of, he's the guy that she would normally go with, He's perfect on paper. He's helping people, the less fortunate, and I feel like that's, you know, what Laurel thinks she is. And for me, it was interesting in one scene that we were filming, Con and Laurel's scene, they came up, one of the writers came up to me and said, it's supposed to not be working so well. Can you make it like more bland, like your relationship with Con? And I remember thinking, actually, I think it's more interesting that it works, that it's not because it doesn't work that she goes with Frank. I feel like sometimes it happens that you just, you know, you have a great relationship and everything's going well, and yet someone comes in your life and it's like, you know, the chemistry is there, and it's not because the other relationship isn't working. So I thought that was a very interesting thing to add to the storyline.
Thank you. All right, Billy, I think maybe some people in this room want to hear you speak. That's just the sense I got when you walked out on stage and the roof shook a little.
How you guys doing?
The TV doesn't do it justice.
Do you guys just want to throw out lines you'd like to hear him say, or should I ask him a question? I'll ask you a question. I really kind of want Nate and Annalise to be together. Sorry, earmuffs. Sorry, no disrespect. It's obviously a very complicated dynamic between the two of you, but do you think that his intentions toward Annalise, that he does really have legitimate feelings for her? She's nodding her head.
Nate definitely has legitimate feelings for Annalise.
It works so well, just go with it.
I gotta stop there. But again, with Nia battling cancer, my wife, in our show, and Annalise having her complex relationship with Sam, much of which I don't know. It's the chemistry we have as two adults with very separate lives and many times in opposition of one another. Me as a detective, she as the defense attorney. So there are elements that draw us together when we know we shouldn't be. I know I've got a wife who is, you know, on the brink of maybe passing away. But yet, because of what's lacking in the home, I seek comfort elsewhere. And in Annalise's strength, I see the weakness that I guess it's reflected in me, you know, as a man, trying to hold things together on my own, but seeking the comfort that she can provide. Maybe to the betterment and maybe not, we'll find out. But it is legitimate, in my opinion.
Viola, I just want to ask one more question, then we're going to actually get into some of the questions that you all submitted before the Q&A. But I wanted to, since we're in a room full of actors, for anyone who has been frustrated that they don't feel like they are getting the types of roles that they deserve, I mean, you are now, I think, sort of the poster child for this woman who deserved it all along, and you're now finally getting your due props. But what advice would you have for people who are still plugging away and wanting that big break? What can you say to aspiring actors and actors who would love to have this kind of role?
I have come to the conclusion that that question is as difficult as what is the meaning of life.
Now you're really wanting to be home in bed. I'm sorry.
No. Because I'm asked that question a lot, and I'm trying not to ask it like give a bullshit answer.
Yeah.
But give us hope, Viola, please.
Yeah. I've been in line for 34 years. 34 years, 26 years professionally, getting on buses for 5.5 hours to get to a theater to do a play in a church in Newton, Massachusetts, from Providence, Rhode Island, doing every kind of one-liner, every kind of play and every kind of dingy theater, every Broadway house. The only thing I can say is when you're in love with the work, you have to know that somehow that that is enough. That that's the wave you have to ride. That I remember going to these theaters, and then it ended up being off-Broadway theaters and regional theaters, and then Broadway, then TV, that the more I worked, the more people saw my work, the more I put it out there, and then someone gave me a break, and then it was a domino effect. Listen, 95% of the people in our profession are unemployed at any given time. The people you see on TV represent less than 1% of the profession. Well, less than 1% of us make enough to make Plan 1 insurance. I have to tell you, I don't know. I really don't. But I think that the one thing you have to do is do it. You can't wait for it. You have to be okay with where you land. Where you want to land. Do you want to be a star? If you want to be a star and you're 55 and you haven't done anything, you really have to have a come to Jesus moment. Okay? But if you're 55 and you really want to do it and you want to start a theater in your small hometown for young actors who are aspiring, and you want to teach and you want to bring other actors, you can do it. You have to know, where do you want to land? What exactly do you want to do? Because not everyone is going to make it. It's just not going to happen. So if you love it, you do it. And when you walk into a room, this is a big one. When you walk into a room, do what you do. Don't try to be a generic form of yourself. Don't walk in trying to be Kerry Washington or Viola Davis. Who the hell are you? Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of people do that. Everybody has the same hairstyle. They're on the same diet. You know? They come out here and they lose their minds, kind of. But all I could say, if you love it, you do it.
Thank you. Now I feel like I need to ask you the meaning of life, because that was so well said. You have it all figured out. All right, this first one I'm going with because there are no fewer than 6 smiley faces on it. This is from Scott to everyone. Please share a fun or funny experience on the set.
I guess I better
Go ahead.
I've got something funny. It's no thanks to me. It's thanks to that man over there. Inevitably, I think. We were doing a scene which I think came out in the 7th episode, where Wes, Connor, and Asher are sent to a bar to get some information, to pump, I think was, right, to pump Allie, someone or other, who's the Allie Burnham, there we go, who's the DA's assistant. And it essentially just ends up with Connor talking about his problems in his relationship with the girl, Wes looking on frustratedly, and Asher seeing it as an opportunity to get out the Millstone Meatsicle, which was maybe one of the most hilarious pieces of work I've ever had to sit next to ever in my life. It was ridiculous. The kind of bold choices that Matt makes day in, day out, from what you think is seemingly innocuous and something you hope you'll be safe from, is terrifying, especially if you have a tendency to corpse or to break as easily as I do. I kind of want to encourage him to kind of try it. Would you? No, I'm kind of put you on the spot. I wanted people to see your Cockney, because I often think that Matt should go over to England and do a sort of Christmas time Dickensian Christmas special, because he really.
It sort of stems from the weird fact that I was blind. to Alfie's accent difference, and he apparently stopped speaking in an English accent at some point during the pilot, and I never really realized this. But I hear it today, Alfie. Today I hear your English difference. Yeah. Yeah. That was...
Amazing. All right, from Tony Sago to the whole cast, did you all have the opportunity to hang out together and get to know each other before shooting? Whoever wants to take it.
Yes. Yeah, no, they the producers and Pete, they were really smart in that they when they cast all of us, we were all over the place. I mean, Alfie was in London, I was here, Karla was in Mexico, and they were in New York, and anyway, so you were in Canada. And they flew us to Philadelphia where we shot the pilot a week early before we'd started principal photography, which really gave us, especially as the students, a chance to hang out and get to know each other. And the ladies are just laughing. It was fun though. Like our first night out, I took us to some really bad. I don't know anything about Philadelphia. I had never been there, but I, for some reason, was the tour guide. And I took us to maybe not the best part of town. We went to a dance club, and it was great. And then after that, we were fast friends.
Yeah. Sorry, I just... no. I trained in theater. President Calzone.
Eggplant.
Sure. Eggplants. These are part of my vocal warms. On the recording too. Oh, I see. That's what this. Right. Got it. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know how microphones and TV works. I don't. Yeah, like that night, I think Jack fell asleep in my bed, and I had ordered room service, which was it was all over my room. I think Asia and I were in bathrobes. It was just, and this was our first night together, and we all really, I think people say it a lot, and it's maybe sometimes bullshit, but we all really, really, really love each other and get along super well, which, I mean, that's the best thing ever, you know.
Our next question is from a 9-year-old. We have a 9-year-old. There we go. Hi. Preston Jude Leisure? Oh, he's French, everyone. He's French. And you wrote this in English, but you could have written it in French, correct? All right. Impressive. I don't know what I was doing at 9, but it wasn't being bilingual. All right. What inspired you? This is for Viola. What inspired you to become an actor?
What inspired me to become an actor was Cicely Tyson's performance in Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. That was it. 6 years old. I saw her age from, 18 to 103, playing a woman who lived in slavery up to the civil rights movement, and I thought that if I did that for the rest of my life, I would be happy. Little did I know that sometimes that wouldn't be true, but that's what did it.
Great question. Thank you. All right, this one is from
Do you watch the show?
By the way, I had some other questions that when I sat down I saw him, that those are not going to be, yeah, just kidding. All right. This is from Sarah Hollis. It's for Viola and the entire cast. Can you talk, each of you, whoever would like to, about how it feels to be part of such an incredibly diverse cast? Viola, even more specifically, the New York Times article and your powerful response of "that no longer works for me." Did that have an impact on your thoughts of such a diverse cast by Shonda? Whoever wants to take it.
Okay, I'll go first. The New York Times article I'll just... Yeah, I have. But the New York Times article, I really felt the intention of the article was was to be positive about the show. I just don't think it was written very well. And I have to say, once again, I always feel like I don't want to give the bullshit answer. There's bullshit, and there's something that sounds really nice. it didn't hurt me so much. It didn't bother me so much. I don't know what else I could do but be who I am. You know, what else is there? I mean, I've been called not classically beautiful, every kind of horrible term. You know, I'm dark skinned, I have my crinkly hair. I think that enough is enough. You know, I think that I think it's time for TV and film to reflect life. You know, a very famous playwright once said that the reason why he wrote is so people can feel less alone. And I think what TV sometimes, I don't want to make a general statement, what sometimes it's become is it presents you with a fantasy, an escape. And I understand that a lot of people do want to escape, but it's our job as actors to play human beings. And I'm sorry, I can't fit a mold, so my only choice is to give you a human being, is to give you yourself in whatever pieces I can. And listen, I'm thankful that ultimately it was a great review. I'm not hurt by the terminology that she did use. And I feel at the end of the day, if really the best advice I could give to any actor is you really have to define yourself. Don't let anyone define you, because we're into types, you know, the breakdowns, you know. I was at a very specific breakdown. Strong with no vulnerability, hardcore, maternal. I played a lot of maternal people. Annalise is not maternal, and I love it. Well, she is maternal. There's some parts of her that are maternal that you will see, but yeah.
I think this might be our last question. It's from Celeste for everyone. What is the best acting advice you've ever been given, and what advice do you have for actors who are still in the beginning stages of their careers? For anyone who wants to take it.
The best acting advice I had ever been given was, I was in school, we were studying Chekhov, and I was playing Sonia in Uncle Vanya, beautiful play, and it was one of her last scenes. What? I do remember everything. No, we were working on it, and my teacher at the time, Ron Van Loo, we were working through this scene, and I was having a lot of trouble, and I couldn't say it, and I was just like, she wouldn't do this. Why would she do this? It doesn't make any sense. And he looked at me and he said, don't diminish what your character is capable of doing just because you're not. And I thought that was amazing. And it was an instant breakthrough. And I was like, you're right. Like, she is more powerful in this moment than I am. I can't understand it, but this is her life, and I can't take that away from her. She can do this. And I've held on to that for all my characters.
When I was starting out, had a really difficult time auditioning. I would get just like super nervous, and I just threw so many auditions, I feel like. And so a turning point for me really in New York was when Marcy Phillips over at ABC, she was like, look, when you walk in the door, we want you to be the right guy for the job. And that really struck a chord for me. Just being able to walk in those 2 minutes in the room to own it, and in those 2 minutes, the role is yours.
Very well said. Anyone else?
It's actually touching upon something that Viola said, how nowadays, I guess, actors, want to be famous or want to be a star when they're starting out, or, so I would say readdressing where you want to go and why you want to do it. And also, we're doing a TV show, so this sounds awful, but not just because you watch TV means you're a good actor, and not because you know every show out there and all of that stuff, that doesn't make you a good actor. Stay in class, act, your teachers, all of, I just moved to LA and I've been told that it's a lot about, who you know, but I still don't believe that, and I hope that it's not because of who you know. I didn't know anyone, and I feel like, the parties and all that, the next day you just feel awful when you wake up. You don't want, people don't remember you at parties. I feel like they remember you in the audition room. And so stay in class, it's all about the craft and not about anything else. So I would say that.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being here, and I have to say, I find this cast to be so inspirational. Your performances are just stunning, and I know we will enjoy seeing how everything unfolds. I can't wait for the next episode to see who killed you.
Stop it.
But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the great questions. Have a good night.